Hello, everyone. My name's Andrew, and I'm just here to spend some time with you. Thank you for sharing your time with me to listen. I hope that this all works out good and you'll like my video. Alrighty. Well, I actually don't know what I'm going to talk about at this point. Hope your day's a good one and that you're happy and Christmas time coming up. I had an awesome day today because what happened was where I live here in the flat, I the owner of the home was getting some work done here, and there's some tradespeople here to do with concreting. There was some tradespeople to do with scaffolding and that kind of thing. And we have a shared driveway here, and so we share the driveway with our neighbours who live up the stairs, and they're a family, and they have school age children, and so what happened this morning was we had two big trucks and another truck uh, blocking up the driveway, and the time was about 8:15 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and this was gonna be potentially quite a problem uh, for the neighbour getting out of their garages next door, and praise God. In the earlier that morning, say about 7 a.m., God gave me the foresight to consider the neighbours, and so before these tradesmen showed up, I just sat down and wrote a little note explaining to the neighbour what was going on here, and sorry for the the issues down here because I knew it was going to be a little bit choked and might have put them out a bit, and so I wrote this note explaining this and that and so that was fine, but then I put the note down and just left that alone, and the tradesmen came quite early. They came just after, um, I suppose it was about 8:15 that I noticed the tradesmen were coming and getting ready for the day's work here. And so I thought, oh, I better go up the stairs and knock on the door and hand the note to the neighbours about what was happening. And so I did that, rang the doorbell. They came to the door and I explained it. And the neighbour said, oh, in 10 minutes, I've got to take my kids to school. So I said, oh, I better go, I'll tell them. So I came down the stairs and told these tradesmen, the neighbours, in 10 minutes, the neighbour's going to need to take their kids to school. And they got the ball rolling. 10 minutes later, the tradesmen reversed all their trucks out of the driveway, made room for the neighbours to get out to take their kids to school. So I ran back up the stairs, rang the doorbell and said, they've moved the trucks for you, they've all reversed their trucks out ready to let you go. And then I came back down the stairs and it's like the tradesmen are like speaking in loud voices, and because they've all, about they're talking to their boss and how they've got the trucks outside on the road, and it just made the red carpet for the neighbours to come down, and they were smiling, they were happy about it. The tradesmen, it buzzed them out too because they felt good about it because they made way for them as well, because they're the ones that actually did it, and worked, and then these tradesmen were friendly, and they were in a good mood today because of this, and they got honour from respecting the neighbours, and just that foresight, just beautiful. And I'm really stoked about that, and I just wanted to share that. That was amazing. Oh wow, that was really amazing, a real blessing. And glory to God, to Jesus, for giving that insight, that foresight. Wow, that was a really amazing day. It was just it was a ripple effect. It was like, because of that consideration, being thoughtful, and the ripple effect on those, and the ripple effect on the. It was a beautiful blessing. I call it a blessing. I don't know if that's the right word for calling it a blessing. It certainly was happy. Anyway, so I thought about, where's the wisdom in that? I mean, it is wise to have that, to get that glimpse of foresight, because I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't, well, I ended up did foreseeing that problem, but I didn't know that was going to happen, and so I got smiles out of that all round, and just what a bit of foresight can do, and a bit of communication, and a bit of man, that was awesome. It's really stunning what that did, that ripple effect. But anyway, what I really want to get out of this is, well, how can this for other people, how can this on a different scale work? Well, it's got to be timely, and that was the thing. It was just timely. It had to be really well timed, just to save the day like that. It was just a matter of timing. And I just wouldn't have got it. I just wouldn't have picked it. Not to focus on this too much. If that hadn't happened, it could have been quite a toxic situation for the neighbours and the tradesmen. It could have been the other side of the coin. It could have ended up being quite a toxic, nasty day. Because if the neighbours were grumpy and annoyed because they were being blocked in, and then the tradesman would have got a bit of lip, I would have got a bit of lip, So it's like it was a good thing because it had to happen. Otherwise, things would have been real. That wouldn't have been. It would, if it had worked out differently. It wouldn't have been good, right? It would have been a very toxic time if that hadn't happened that way. So like it went from a potential, really a real mess potentially, to a real blessing, like just based on whether that happened or not. Glory to God. That was really a good thing that he helped me to foresee. Glory to God. But so like, how can this kind of thing? What can you learn from this? Put that situation aside. What happened to me today? I mean, that was just a moment where something went right. Something went really right. But normally in life, it's the little story about the hare and the tortoise. How they were doing a race, and they both took off. Bang! The hare ran ahead, miles ahead, and the tortoise, he's just going. He's on his way as well. So the tortoise gets way up ahead in the finishing line, climbs up on a grassy knoll, and goes to sleep. And the hours go by, and the tortoise is he just keep going, plodding away, and eventually he gets past the tortoise, and gets to win the race. Just as the hare wakes up and goes, oh, and he lost because he went off and had a nap before the finishing line. And the tortoise win. And what's really happening in my life is the race is to the tortoise. It's a long-term thing. Because, just like a moment where something good happens like it did today for me, that's just, it's just something that happens in a short space of time and it worked out, right? But for the most part in my life, opportunities don't come up like that for thoughtfulness, and just, it doesn't really usually happen that often. And it's like what we're doing on the long term probably matters more. The reason for education is not because of the government compulsory, not because they want you to, because you can learn at home at your own pace, and just the race is to the tortoise. And there's good reasons for it. Doesn't matter what the government says or schools or anybody. That's not the point. Using your time well to try and get education, read books. There's a lot. It's a long-term strategy at play. You listen to Proverbs and he gives you that attitude. Go for wisdom. Wisdom's the best thing to go for. Wisdom's the principal thing. Get instruction. Listen and observe what's going on, and prudence is close to wisdom, and that attitude, like, okay, we'll try and do this. We'll try and read a few pages of a great book. We'll listen to one. We'll learn about the grammar, logic, and rhetoric. We'll invest in a computer and maybe subscribe to a few really wise channels that are putting out wisdom. We'll take a look at history, forensic history. We'll take a look at the great books of the Western world. It's not easy, and studies, you get tired, and it's not always like all sprightly like I have been on this video. Sometimes it's a bit of a grind, but King Solomon still says it's the right way to go. King Solomon really, he tells you, he instructs you exactly what to do to get wisdom. I know the story goes that King David was aging in retirement kind of thing, and the young Solomon was there to become the next king, and he was given that position. I know there was a lot of trouble at the time. There might have been some other people that would have wanted to be king. Just some hard people were waiting in the wings, hoping to be king, I think. But King Solomon got it right. He got the job, and he was just a young man. He had an incredible father, King David, who wrote many of the Psalms, and God came to him in a dream, and he said, Solomon, you're about to become king. Ask me what you want. And Solomon asked God for a really good thing that pleased God. he said to him something like, I'm just a kid. I don't know what I'm doing. I really don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to go in and out. You've given me this huge nation, Israel, to be king over. So give me a discerning heart that I can tell between good and evil, and God said, "Wow, I'm so pleased, Solomon. You asked for a discerning heart, wisdom, and to do the job of being a king. I'm just so rapt that you asked for that, and you didn't ask for a long life or lots of money and all these other things that people would normally ask for, and But I'm gonna grant you your request. And you're gonna be the wisest there ever was, and there'll be none like you again." Wow, he got given a gift, and he said, "I'm also going to give you the things you didn't ask for. Peace. Sorting out. You're going to be rich, favor, and you won't have enemies there. You work it out. I'll give you those things too." And so Solomon, as you know, wrote the book of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, and a love poem called Song of Song, which I just don't listen to much at all. But I love his books, Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. Whenever I get down about life, I listen to Ecclesiastes, and you'll hear Solomon. I think it was towards the end of his life. He said he was successful and he had everything, but he realized vanity of vanities, all is vanity, and vexation of spirit. So he really kind of made very explicit the downside of life. He left you no mystery about that. And although that's dark, it's very comforting to know that life itself has a lot of vanity and vexation. He said you'll never, even wise men can never understand this world completely. There's things that are just too far away for them to, even though a wise man thinks to not understand this world. Maybe some amazing person like Samuel Johnson, who wrote the English Dictionary. Even these people, it was too deep for them to understand everything that God was doing in this world. It was just too deep, too far away. He said, even if you'll never understand what God's doing in this world, even the wisest of people. Yeah, I think he concluded by saying, fear God and obey his commandments. That's the whole duty of men. But in the book of Proverbs, chapter 1 to 9, and you have to really be dedicated to get anything out of it. He says you've got to keep my words, and you do have to go over and over, because it's like, I don't know about you, but if you're not under a wise teacher, we go real stupid and real dumb real fast. It is so easy to just become a blundering person that's quite stupid and sinful. And so it's really good to get the word from Solomon, because he's saying, I'm trying to teach this wisdom to you, what God gave me. So he's instructing you, and he's saying, really listen and take it on board. There's this thing called wisdom in the world that God made from the very beginning. The whole creation is made with there's something called wisdom in it. And he's saying, tune into that wisdom. She's like a wonderful lady that you need to listen to, and she'll look after you. And he's telling you, write something on your finger, just make sure you don't forget you are after wisdom, and wisdom is what you're after. Don't forget that. And the races to the tortoise on this one, long term, but also, just in the day, that foresight, like this morning for me. I mean, that was incredible. It was just a moment where I followed what I knew God was wanting me to do, and it ended up producing this lovely little ripple effect of favor around here just on the day. So that was so amazing. But I think when we're talking about the long term, getting wisdom, whether you're recovering and healing from a psychiatric problem, which I've been through, you want really wise teachers on your side. And the ones I've found that are alive today or that have just been recently in recent history, like John Taylor Gatto, the New York school teacher who wrote a lot of books on the problems with school and the history of it, or whether it's a guy called Jan Irving from Logos Media. He teaches the Trivium and a lot of history about what's going on. He knows a lot about the government's mind control programs in history, recent history, or whether it's one of my favourite ones, Richard Grove from Tragedy and Hope, and he's got a YouTube channel. I think it's called Richard Grove, and a website called tragedyandhope.com. And Jay Dye is quite good for if you wanted to crack open those globalist books and learn about what's been going on in the world. Some great podcasts to listen to is Alan Watt, cuttingthroughthematrix.com. And also another one I noticed, Conspiracy. It's one from Australia. It's a conspiracy.oz or something. Conspiracyoz. I don't know, but it's on the internet there. Really good. He's keeping people up to date with what's going on in this last couple of years of the pandemic. GrandTheftWorld.com. These bunch of researchers are just like pouring through the internet documents. They're watching the news. They're bringing it to you and putting their analysis on it. They're awesome. If you've got problems with demons, you've got a lot of Bible people out there on the internet. You've got everything. You've got preaching, teaching, worship, people that specialize in deliverance from, the casting out of demons and the prayers that can help you, the prayer type live prayers. Fernando Perez is really good. There's some good ones out there for that. And that can really build you up, edify you, and help get you through actually some very difficult times that we're going through, and give you some encouragement. But yeah, I'd start with Proverbs, and that can give you the attitude or aptitude to be spending your time doing this kind of thing. It's a good time to take from the internet, to learn, to receive, and because God's given us what we are, right? And we can learn. We can learn. It's just something in the human being. It's just all these people. It's just what they are. We're good learners. The nervous system, the brain. It's just what it is. We don't have to force it or anything. Just let it come naturally. Just your own interests. Just more knowledge to you, inputs. you get out what you put in. I think there's some truth there on lots of levels. I think if you do well, you're going to create ripples. Sounds a little bit corny, but you keep the wisdom books with you. Keep looking at them, keep seeing the words, keep listening to the words, use a pen and paper. Make good use of your time. If you've got a little bit of money, don't buy stuff that's not going to last, or stuff that's probably in hindsight a waste of money. Buy a good phone, a good computer, some good books. Those are quite good goals. If you haven't got them, because I will admit the computer actually helps in a big way to communicate and to help you to receive, to be able to access things that you can learn about. You can search in the search engine. It has got some drawbacks because all people have a sinful nature there, and when you're not in your right self, you can get into bad temptation with some of the basic instincts we all have, and that's bad. That will ruin you if you're watching adult videos. That will really make your life toxic and ruin you. That's really what that's the other side of it. I think we're in a battle with real evil, spiritual evil, and that influences people, and then people become toxic, and and it's this good stuff we want to cause. We want to make happen. And my little story there, on a bigger scale, like with politics, can you imagine what a bit of thoughtful foresight can do if America, Australia, these other countries had the foresight to be more considerate with Russia and China? Can you imagine what would happen if some of them, if they had some counsellors there and somehow they had more consideration and foresight, so to avoid like a potentially toxic situation, that they would get in early and share some notes with these countries, and really out of a sincerity and a love for their neighbour, and have that foresight, so that when those difficult parts come, there wouldn't be a toxic mess happen, or a war, or some horrible stuff happen, because politicians had that foresight to put the good word in, and just go and share with each other in a way that could cause a nice ripple effect for those political groups, and just avoid a toxic mess. Just that simple thing, if they did that, at least we might have some peace in the world. I have to be careful to watch my words here. But the progress of science at the moment, and the government policies over coronaviruses, what they've done, they did not have a lot of thoughtful foresight into what they were doing there. They didn't, because it's created a toxic situation where people have lost trust in science. It's not that science doesn't work. Science does work, but it's the spirit behind it, the person. We're people. We're people. We have these a sense of feelings and modes and feeling good about ourselves. This whole rigid control cybernetics control, mind control thing is so damn toxic. It's missed the humanity, and that these clinicians, the medicine, they're not treating us for who we really are as people, and they're relying on all their fancy science and knowledge and techniques, and they've really missed it. And the education system's missed it too. We're not robots. We're not there to be trained like automatons. And because it's got away from humanity, what it means to be a person. A computer can never be a person. It's impossible for a computer to be a person. It's just not going to happen. And it's impossible, but it's not impossible to make a person a computer. But a person is not a computer, never should be. A person should not be wired up or injected or messed within the head like they've done. It was evil. It was just a real horror movie, and it's still going on because they're wanting to master the brain and cognitive warfare, and all these countries are kind of putting money into studying this abomination. You don't control people that way by trying to make us part of a computer. It's absurd. It's an abomination, and that's where these governments are taking the technological progress. That's not the way to have foresight and can be considerate with your neighbours or your citizens. You don't want to rely on trying to pull that off on people. It's dehumanizing. And if they're just doing it all this mechanical scientific genius, they've missed the boat. And that's why this impersonal, degrading scientism that's running the world, that's why it's very displeasing to God that they're going that way. I don't know who they think they are. Do they think they can be God? I mean, far out. Do they think they're gods? They're not God. Mankind, people can never be God. But what are they doing trying to have that godlike control and power over genetics, over people's brains? Well, this is insane. This is like a bad movie, a bad James Bond movie. I mean, this is insane. That's too much foresight into war, when what they really need is more foresight into communicating really well with their international neighbours and communicating really as a person to their people. I mean, it's a nightmare, all this history of mind control in the 20th century, the CIA experiments and all the other countries doing this horrible stuff to see if they can read and write into the human brain and all this stuff. And it really did it. It's documented. There's videos, there's books. It's out. They went wrong. They did horrible things. They were abusive. They threw out what it means to be a person and all this. So decent people have to create ripples in the opposite direction, and to really kind of save the day or save the decade, I would say. Decent people have to make ripple effects and save this decade before it goes to wicked evil people. Doesn't matter how you don't get impressed by how smart they are, what geniuses they are with all their maths and their computers and all this. People can be very nasty and doing all kinds of nasty. Look at this, these labs where they're like, you had smallpox, all these deadly viruses, and the fact that there's a lot of smoke here, a lot of illusion that this virus was something from a laboratory in China that the Americans were actually putting money into to help them do the research. Too much. What it is too much interference with people, too much tinkering with our brains, too much tinkering with viruses. It's toxic. It's not the thing to do. Where are the people trying to have that foresight and consideration and love in the military and in these to try and make their opposition smile. I mean, you should be trying to make the Chinese smile and the Russians smile and the Americans smile. That might, by being considerate and kind and thoughtful and with a lot of foresight, make them smile. So it never ends up into a toxic, kinetic hot war or any horrible stuff happen. You don't want to. You want to do it that way and not sort of the other way, right? Well, now I've been just trying to communicate a little bit of something there, and these media people. I mean, it's so blindingly obvious. If you read books by Edward Bernays, Walter Lippmann, you read books on that, and you'll see how the media is like basically a puppet saying what the government wants them to say. And this is a government that's not really got the heart and the personal side that it ought to have towards the population and what's going on. It's tyranny if you're just going to be told, do this is being told what to do, and the response is, I've just got to obey, how high, how much, what colour, without this is not the way you want to do the politics. It's so it's just creating a toxic situation where even decent people, law-abiding people, are looking at this and going, I don't like what's happening in the world. I don't like it. And the trust is gone. These doctors and the trust is being lost because they're missing something. They're missing something about how reality works. They've taken on board too much of this whole thing that's happened with the brain, with cybernetics, control theory, and all this stuff. Public relations, basically being very deceptive, very fallacious. I mean, the lies, or should I say the fallacious kind of rhetoric the media puts out on behalf of governments is really an abomination. There's some good ones. Sky News is doing a good job. Some of the news people are doing better, and some of the alternative independent media are creating the best ripples in the world, and like Richard Grove. So there's real hope if that ripple effect can keep going. If you learn it and share it, so we can all become more politically aware and know truth and know what's right and wrong. Because I think through political correctness or whatever it is, they've abandoned God. They've abandoned the truths of God's. He's speaking truth from up here, and who are they down there to say what's true in academia and politics? God's speaking truth way above them. They're on a foolish level, and whereas God's on a wise level, and all what's required is to believe the gospel simply by reading it and listening to it. God is worthy, and it's good stuff, and it's true, and God loves you, and He wants the best for you, and He sent Jesus to do what He did, His good work on the cross to forgive your sins. I mean, it's all there for us. The gospel of Jesus could create the most amazing ripples, more than what it can, if people would just listen and just listen to Jesus. It's God the Holy. Listen to Jesus. God says. God the Father says, listen to my Son Jesus. All we need to do, people. So Alan Watt, cuttingthroughthematrix.com podcast. That's a very good one. Peace for Revolution podcast. Tragedy and Hope on iTunes and other places. That's a really awesome one. The classic kind of liberal education trivium model and how it's kind of been improved is a good one. There's an organization called the Critical Thinking Foundation. Dr. Paul and Linda Elder, they've got a YouTube channel and website. They teach you about how to think about thinking and improve your thinking, so that you can become more fair-minded and society. Gino Denning had a go at teaching the trivium, which is basically this idea that you start simple with the grammar. So you go through all the words, all the language involved with something you're involved with. Try and understand the words, the things, like apple. So we have the word apple, apple, and how grammar, apple is the noun. I'm lifting my arm up high, so you've got lifting's the verb, and the general grammar, so all the parts, all the putting the apple down, or gesturing, gesticulation, all these words, hat, and you start off with all that level. That's where you want, and then you start to understand what these words mean. That's the logical stage. But in the grammar stage, it's simply you go, what is it? It's an apple. Whose apple is it? Well, it's my apple. So you go, what, who, where is the apple? It's in my hand. When is the apple in my hand? It's 10 to 9 almost New Zealand time, and I'm here in the home here in Wellington City, a suburb here. It's where I am, the location. So the who question is always who's the people involved. This is just very basic, just real basic grammar that they teach in childcare centres. But you work on that level of language, and then the second stage is the logic stage, where you try and understand whys, what's it for, why are we doing this, the purpose, the function of something. Your thinking's improving, and then the rhetoric phase is either how do I deal with this apple? You put it in your mouth and bite it. I mean, chew it, right? Or with English and communication, talking to people, it's the rhetoric side. Or if you're writing down on paper, that's rhetoric too, writing, the output. And so we work like this. But the mistake to think the computer and our brain are really the same as a mistake. But we do kind of work like you have your mouse and keyboard, they go into the computer. The computer's doing what it's doing right now, processing, sending it out on YouTube, a whole bunch of stuff I don't understand, but it's putting I can see myself talking, it's outputting. So input, processing, output. Somehow the human brain has the same kind of thing going on. But yeah, we're never going to be a computer, and the computer's never going to be us. The potential and possibility to do science to merge those two may very well be possible, but it's an abomination. They shouldn't do it. People can only do people with all of our feelings and all the meanings, and computers can never be like us like that. This transhumanism stuff that a lot of the rich people are doing in the science and that, it's an abomination. They don't understand that people have, it's very dehumanizing what they're doing if you're trying to. Anyway, enough of that. But that is I heard talk on a very interesting subject that I listen to an amazing book on YouTube. It's called well, the author's Norbert Wiener. Norbert Wiener, who was a genius prodigy in maths, electronics. He helped in World War II by making automated guns that could track planes. Really smart guy. And a bunch of other smart guys, like the people who first made the computers, Alan Turing, John von Neumann, all these dudes. I started having meetings talking about the general subject of control in all of their different scientific fields. Very interesting. Norbert Wiener's got a book called The Human Use of Human Beings, or Control and Communication in the Machine and the Man, or something like that. Very interesting subject. It goes right into stuff about information and signals and messages and communication and control in the animal and the machine. Very interesting stuff. And all that stuff that he did, and he wrote this back in the 50s, 60s, it's all been integrated into our modern technological society. But the downside of it is it's very dehumanizing, that people can be thought of in that way rather than people. They can be thought of in a very mechanical sort of thing. So I'll put that down there. A very interesting subject called cybernetics. I think Grand Theft World's going to be talking about it next week on Monday, Tuesday on grandtheftworld.com. Very interesting stuff. It's like they try to reverse engineer the brain. It's a manual for how people tick and how machines tick. And when those principles are applied to people, it's very dehumanizing, because they can take out the person and the real thing going on. Because we're not computers, basically. Even though all that theory is true, all that stuff that makes computers work and all that signals, it's still, we're not like that. Even though it seems to be potentially able to mix and all this stuff. Anyway, very interesting stuff. That stuff. And the governments have unfortunately taken that mechanical side of that sort of heartless, logical side to it all, and they're using that principles to rule without losing the humanity, losing the fact about people being people. Anyway, very interesting. Claude Shannon's also involved in that, trying to technically figure out what communication is, particularly applied to electronics and phones and stuff. So I better finish up soon, eh? I might finish with some juggling skills for entertainment. I'm sorry I don't have a red nose. One of my friends suggested that when I do this, I should put a red nose on. Not a bad live stream, I suppose. Something like my friend I met from Texas. My friend from Texas I just met recently online. His channel's called American Patriot. American Patriot. Oh. How can I forget these things? See, memory's not too good. He's got a YouTube channel, and he's wanting 500 subscribers, and I think he's at about 350 subscribers. So I might leave his link in the description. If you go on his channel, just subscribe and like his video. Help him get to 500 subscribers. The channel's called American Patriot Nomad, I think. Yeah, American Patriot Nomad. He's from Texas. He's living in his truck at the moment with his dog Tuffy. He's got a good heart. Just subscribe and like his channel and help him get to 500 subscribers, because he's on a low income and he needs a bit of financial help. And yeah. So, juggling was just a hobby I picked up about 10, 12 years ago. It was something I always wanted to do, but I started very late. I took a liking to it when I was about 10 years old, when a clown juggler came to the primary school. It was one of the only things I really took a liking to at the time. But I had a lot of problems at school. I had problems in my family. I was adopted by my grandmother because my grandmother's son was about 17 and the girl was about that age. And they had me, and I was sort of found myself in a position because they broke up, and a young pregnancy, and I had a lot of chip on my shoulder when I found out about that at school, and my schooling was really poor. And then I got a psychosis when I was about 20. After crunch, my life came to pieces, right? Went to a psych hospital, and so I learned so much about what goes on with psychiatry and psychiatric nursing. And that's a good point. People in the mental health field, people are complaining about it. It's too clinical. They're relying too much on drugs. There's not enough support. People like myself, and there's tons of people like us that have survived this, and we're trying to create some sort of programs in our life, not a program designed by the hospital, but a program in our own life long term, so we can heal and get better. And I believe we can heal, but maybe not quite through the existing sort of treatments and therapies fail. They fall real short of really helping people. A lack of foresight or insight into what a long-term support can do. That's why I believe people need houses. They need flats. They need a setup where they can somehow find themselves and find God, and they need a lot of wisdom. It's put into their lives so they can start growing naturally. And the reality outside in the real world, the adult world, is very hard. And these people are very delicate, like me and other people. We need just a nice way of growing and relaxing and being ourselves and getting into life. And that's not easy when the world's gone the way it is. You know, I for whatever reason, the bureaucracies, the governments, the advisors, the top psychiatrists, they're stuck in a rut. And the people that really need help don't get that support. And even if there is enough nurses and enough doctors, which there's not, the kind of help that they receive is it's not that helpful. So not only is there not enough of them, the government sees not enough way to get the treatment or help when you need it. The treatment and help is actually no good either, and that's the problem. Whether it's Big Pharma or whatever's doing it, people are not able to find that program that actually helps them thrive and survive and heal. I don't think they don't even want to believe in healing. I'm living proof healing happens. I was on risperidone for a long time. Like I got on well in my early 20s. I think I was on risperidone for about 10, 15, quite a number of years. And then I had this great GP called Dr. Matt Shelton out of Plymouth Medical Centre, and he knew something, eh? He was also in the Wellington Symphony Orchestra playing the trombone, and yeah, he was willing to give me a go and let me wean off the risperidone, which I did, and just a milligram at a time or so, and then I'd stable out on that level for 6 months or a year. Then I'd come off another milligram, and pretty soon I was on 1 milligram, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll go off that as well, and that worked. And it's just this little phase where you have to wean off and get used to it, and you come off another bit of the drug, and you just stay on that for a long time. The weaning process needs to be a bit longer than people. If you wean off, if you just come off that stuff, it's nothing personal. The brain chemistry can't take that sort of shock, and you think you'll be getting sick again, going into psychosis, and if we want to go a little bit mystical, which science doesn't believe in, the devil's going to see that, and he's going to go for you to try and make you sick again as well. And your own nervous system's got to adapt to that change. And that's why a lot of when people come off medication, they fail, they crash. It's nothing personal, it's just probably the way that works. You've got to just give yourself time to adjust to that new level, because the brain's quite capable of doing its thing without those drugs. People half a lifetime on those drugs, and they think that they need them. It's like an addiction, like smoking. But like smoking, you can come off and adapt to that and not have smoking. I don't think the psychiatric drugs are any different. But your life has to be on an attitude where you want to improve, and you want to get better. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Like, you can prevent trouble. The best thing is not solving the problem or the conflict at the time. It's better to prepare for yourself, and then the conflict won't happen. And I mean, I don't know, but I think that there needs to be a better protocol and better programs that don't rely on beliefs or truths that just aren't true in the history of this psychiatry. But it is all individual, and for some people it takes longer when the wounds are deeper, psychological wounds, because it would be important to recognize that who you are, it's your personality, the way things in life have affected you, whether it's shame, guilt, fear, all these things are like psychological wounds inside. And without dealing with those through communication and therapy and coming to understand it and be aware of it, that they call that cognitive therapy. Well, I think it's much more, it's life. It's not just cognitive therapy. What do they think life is? Cognitive therapy. No, but there's a lot of support and setup in life, using your perceptual mechanisms, your senses, and good information that are important for recovery. And I'll say it, complete healing. They're stuck in a paradigm in psychiatry where they think you can't heal and you can't transform and become a healthy person. Well, I think you can. And it can be simple ways, simple things to do that. Oh dear. I'm quite tired now. I've been going like just about an hour, so I'll just finish off with some juggling. I'll see if I can. 4 apples. Can I do a banana? Can I do 3 bananas? Any chance of that? Oh, I hope so. I've never tried this before. Yay! Bananas! Do anything special with oranges. I've just gone over the hour. Yay! Now, because it's such a special video, I might bruise an apple. But don't bruise people, okay? They say you can't make an omelette without cracking eggs. That's what some famous world leaders say. Well, this is terrible because that means that you can't make an omelette unless you make eggshells, whatever. Well, we're not eggshells. Alrighty. Peace. Enjoy.